Today we'll be doing a video series on grade 12 physical sciences, and we are doing that because we are months away from the final examinations for the grade 12s. And as you know, at Bright Brainiacs, we care and we want everyone to pass because we believe that knowledge is power. So without further ado, let us get into today's topic. So on the decks today is physical sciences chemistry grade 12, and we'll be looking at electrochemistry, specifically galvanic cells. Electrochemistry as studied in this grade 12, that is, does more than just show how electrons are gained or lost and how to form new products using redox reaction. No, it shows how electrons, if provided with a pathway, can produce light. How can this happen? If you have such a scenario here, we can produce light as seen in the bulb. It also shows how electricity can cause chemical changes, So the most specific example of chemical changes that we're going to look at is when we use copper sulfate and then the blue color in the copper sulfate electrolyte disappears and becomes colorless. We're going to look at that in more detail in our next video. So let us start with the overview and the introduction of what galvanic cells are. So, galvanic cells are cells that convert chemical energy into electrical energy. The reaction in a galvanic cell is spontaneous, and we'll show you later on using the standard reduction potentials on how to identify when a reaction is spontaneous or not. So, the two half cells are set up in different containers and are connected to a salt bridge. So, this is the two containers, and this is what we call a salt bridge. We will dive deep later on what is in both the containers. In the galvanic cells, electrons migrate to an anode and migrate from a cathode. So this is the migration of electrons. As you can see, the E, which stands for electrons, this is a wire which forms the external circuit, and then the electrons move from an anode to a cathode in an external cell. As explained, this is the external circuit formed by the wire and the electrodes, and that's a voltmeter to obviously measure current. So we're looking at the galvanic cell overview, and then we're just going to explain briefly what is everything that is involved in the galvanic cell. So this is a voltmeter as explained, and this is the wire connecting both the electrodes, and then this is a copper electrode, this is a zinc electrode, and then this is a salt bridge, and the salt bridge maintains electrical neutrality. So the copper sulfate is called an electrolyte, and the zinc sulfate solution is also called an electrolyte. And we will explain everything later on as we go on in the video. We'll then look at oxidation and reduction. So oxidation is a loss of electrons and reduction is the gaining of electrons. So let us look at two examples of oxidation and reduction. So oxidation of sodium is when sodium is oxidized to form sodium plus an electron. Reduction is when chlorine minus gets an electron to form chlorine minus. So then we'll look at why we would call an atom that loses electrons a reducing agent, and why we call an atom that gains those electrons an oxidizing agent. So let us